The stories that made news and made history, the places that matter to us, and the people who make Central Illinois home. Join us from the Vault.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt Metcalf. Thanks for joining us. Wherever you go in Central Illinois, the name Mr. Roberts rings a bell. Wyndham Roberts, Jack, as his friends called him, was WCIA's first weathercaster. He brought the forecast to viewers for more than 30 years. When he passed in 1985, his family and his television family mourned together. WCIA produced a special in his honor, Remembering Mr. Roberts, which we are proud to share with you right now from the Vault.
A decent and kind gentleman has departed from us. We will miss him. That was just one of the many tributes paid this week to Jack Roberts, who gave of himself to so many through his work as a scientist and engineer, as an active contributor to his community, and most visibly as the man who came into your homes and communities throughout Central Illinois for 31 years as a friend, as Mr. Roberts, telling you on perhaps more than 15,000 occasions how the weather was going to affect your daily lives. That part of his life began as this station began back in the fall of 1953. Channel 3's John Paul traces that career.
All weathermen consider themselves real hot forecasters, you know, and I was interested to see whether I could regain my old talents, and I never intended anything more than just a couple of weeks until the station had hired a professional to.
Mr. Roberts and Channel 3 started together. He did the weather on the station's very first newscast in November 1953, and he's been there ever since. Through the years, he's been a constant. While the weather maps have changed, and the news sets, and even the people, he was there every night making sense out of the weather. The technology of forecasting has changed too, and while he liked the satellite pictures, the computer forecasts, and color radar, if they indicated rain, he might stick his head out the door before airtime just to make sure. And he always kept things in perspective. Take the Great Blizzard of January 1977, which shut down virtually everything in Central Illinois.
Why, Dave, it doesn't even compare with the winter of 1830-31. No, not that I was there.
The interaction between Mr. Roberts and the news anchors added to the personality we came to know. Even away from the studio, no harm was meant in the kidding and poking fun. But Mr. R always seemed to get the upper hand, leaving Paul Davis all wet. In recent years, Jerry Slabe became the jouster.
Never had the chance to throw me in the water. I never gave him that chance, never went near it. But when I first arrived, he made me feel very, very comfortable, and he did his best to make me feel welcome here at Channel 3. But after that, and after he knew I was used to things, he came after me. We had the incident of the Bement Bowl, which has been blown way out of proportion, but the ladies were stranded there back in 1977, I believe it was. It was a bad snowstorm. And many nights when the weather was bad and I would mention something like, how bad is it out there? What chances do I have of getting home? And he'd say, well, Jerry, I think you could probably make it at least as far as Bement.
Mr. Roberts' work at Channel 3 was just one part of his professional life. His work in the field of water resources for the Illinois State Water Survey had national and international impact.
He was a true innovator, Dave. He particularly developed new techniques to measure and calculate evaporation from lakes that were widely cited and used. And then he moved into another area of even greater innovation, and that was the use of special substances, fatty alcohols, to put on lakes to suppress evaporation, loss of water, and to try those same substances on soils.
And his contributions to his community did not end there. He was an ardent supporter of the arts and was called upon to help in the founding of the Champaign-Urbana Symphony.
The fact that he was well known in the community and he was well trusted, people who didn't even know him personally, I think, had faith in him and his trust, and his genuine desire for music, his love for the fine arts, and his willingness to go out and push for it seemed to be the important thing that we felt at that time.
Mr. Roberts said he told school children that perhaps the best classes for a TV weatherman were in a good charm school. And charm he had as he touched the lives of young and old across Central Illinois. The child in a hospital to whom he sent his weather maps, the countless appearances he made before civic and community groups, large and small, young and old, throughout the area. At the University of Illinois, they even dedicated a halftime football show to the weather forecasts he delivered each evening. And over the years, his viewers had returned his loyalty.
The weather's just not the same unless Mr. Roberts gives it.
Well, I feel like I've grown up with Mr. Roberts. He's been the weatherman on Channel 3 all the years that I've been watching, and I just feel like he's a part of my life.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have done this. There are loads of times when you wish you'd do a better job, and things go wrong so often when you don't want them to. But it's something like going to the dog track or to the horse track. Sure, you lose your money today, but tomorrow you can go back and maybe you'll win, you know. And I always take that attitude, that the next telecast will be better than the last.
When we come back, more remembering Mr. Roberts, including his life off-screen. Stay with us.
From the Vault, celebrating the rich heritage of Central Illinois. Sponsored by Sunset Funeral Homes. Remember, celebrate, heal.
Joining me are two men who were closely associated with Jack Roberts in his professional careers. William Ackerman is Chief Emeritus of the Illinois State Water Survey, a professional colleague of Jack Roberts for nearly 30 years. And Paul Davis, former Channel 3 News Director, now News Director at WGN-TV in Chicago. Paul, you established a very unique relationship with Jack Roberts many years ago on the air. One which at the time it began really wasn't the style of the day, kind of unique.
Well, that's true. We talked with each other before and after the program, and quite often we were able to make light or have humorous, we thought humorous exchanges. Quite often Mr. Roberts would appear to be the butt of a joke or the recipient of a sling or something like that, and he was of such a personality that he took it well and would often come back with a wonderful rejoinder that you could hear people cheering that he'd scored one. And this evolved slowly and became a pattern. I'm not sure we were the first in the nation to do it, but it certainly is not uncommon today.
Right. You once described Mr. Roberts as being a person, not a performer on the air.
No, well, that's true. He was always himself. He was a very unique man. Of course, we knew him so well that it's at times hard to perceive that he was seen by some people differently. But he was extremely warm. He was always natural. As much as he tried to accommodate those of us who were suggesting ways to do his weather programs with a little bit of a showbiz touch, you know, who he was dominant, and very important to him that the integrity of what his information was be given. If we suggested that maybe we could skip the degree days once in a while, or that who all really wants to know about the temperature at the 4-inch level, you know, we incurred great wrath because he knew the audience needed this information.
We all knew of Mr. Roberts' second career, but probably not as well as Bill Ackerman did in his work at the State Water Survey. And we heard earlier from Stan Shagnon about the national and international impact of some of Mr. Roberts' work. But truly, he was a man of Illinois when it came to water resources.
Yes, he knew our water resources. He was particularly expert in the area of lakes. Both the levels of lakes, the sedimentation later became a big interest to him. But Jack had a very outstanding career at the Water Survey as an engineer and hydrologist. And one of the difficult things that I have to give him credit for is he was able, the same person, was able to separate his Water Survey life. We tended to think of his weather business as his avocation. Maybe you thought of it the other way around. But it was important that Jack separate these two things. And even though the people out there might not, he did. He was very, very adept at that.
What impact, though, did his, quote, celebrity status have in his work at the survey?
Well, Jack was a great favorite of all the people within range of your station, and he was a wonderful person to have on your side when you go somewhere. Now, going somewhere might be sitting in front of an appropriation committee in Springfield, And when you had Jack with you, you started out with a smiling, receptive kind of committee. Oh yes, this is Mr. Roberts. How do you do, Mr. Roberts? You know, this sort of thing. But it was also manifest in a lot of other ways. I traveled some with Jack, and it was an experience to go to a public place, like a restaurant, in Bloomington or Decatur or wherever. Within a minute, somebody would spot him and say, oh, you know, there's Mr. Roberts. And then in a few minutes, everybody in the restaurant would be conversing with him all at the same time, you know. Well, you put old Paul down last night, didn't you, you know, or whatever. And it was a great thing to have Jack on one side, because he was a very solid scientist and engineer, but he had this ability to communicate, which a lot of us engineers and scientists do not have. He could communicate with people, and he was credible. People believed in him. Not all science is very popular, you know, some of it is not these days. But when Jack said something, people wanted to believe it.
His appeal really transcended the generations, whether it be a child in grade school, somebody in high school, whether it be a young adult, a college student, a senior citizen. They really felt like they were his friend.
Well, Bill, you were a member of the First Presbyterian Church with Jack, and it was out of that, coincidentally out of that church, that he happened to come to work here. When the station was being put on the air, he was the Sunday school teacher of the son of the founder of the company, and simply brought to the founder's attention that there was a man who knew a lot about weather, who was at the church, and that's how he came to be the first personality of this television station. He was the very first face and voice on the air of Channel 3 back in 1953.
And he gathered that data by radio and telephone.
Oh, yes.
We didn't have all the modern miracles that are on weather.
That's right.
On the TV weather today. He had to gather that data.
He did listen at home, I know, to some weather radio station that none of us knew about, and would bring back data of the upper atmosphere that is now available on a wire but wasn't then. And he would look at the weather forecast, and he would know that there was something wrong with it. Now, the station's policy was, and I suspect still is, to use the National Weather Service forecast, but then weather reporters able to say if they agree or not, which he would do with some freedom. He would get on the phone with some regularity and call the Chicago Weather Forecasting Office, and the people up there who had become career meteorologists in the Chicago office quite often were people who had learned weather from him when he taught at Chanute during the Second War, which is what brought Mr. Roberts to Illinois. And he would call them up. Now, John, he would say, John, you know that when this situation occurs that you cannot have rain or whatever, and soon there'd be on the weather wire a revised Zone 7 for central Illinois.
Yes. And our favorite calls, of course, would be those who would call in the first robin of spring, the first tulip to pop up, and these were his friends.
And it was a pleasure to be in the studio as he would prepare his weather maps, because he would talk to you, to the camera crews. All of us loved to listen to him talk, because he was a Renaissance man. He knew many things. And he was listening to a show one night, this was back in the early 60s, about nuclear testing in the atmosphere. And his reaction was hogwash, 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 most of the show. So when he came on with the weather 30 minutes later, he said, first let me say that there's more energy released in a thunderstorm than there is in an explosion of a hydrogen bomb. Now as for the weather. And you know, his ability just to say unique things was wonderful. It was charming. It also occasionally get us a lot of mail. One night I suggested that the forecasts had been wrong lately. And they're a National Weather Service forecast, but we, of course, accused him of being wrong. And he said, well, you know, you're right. He said, I don't know what it is. They've gone to computers. He said, they've added all these computers, and they just don't do it right. And he said, and I think they've also added a lot of young women. And, of course, the mail came in from that.
Right.
No, Dave, we joke a lot about Jack, but he was one of the most competent weather people in the country. He knew what he was talking about. He was not just simply somebody reading a wire report. But because some critic of his thought that the show was too light, they blocked him getting the American Meteorological Society seal, which some weather people think is life or death. And he was angered by that, but he didn't worry about it. It was no big deal to him. And yet he was asked to address one of their speeches as a keynote speaker one year, and he was laughing about how funny it is they wouldn't give him the seal but invited him to address their conference.
One of the impressions that has come out as we reflect back has been the fact he was always there, constant with all the variables going on around him. Through a tremendous time of change in the news gathering business and the public interest in news and information, especially starting back in the 60s. And of course, when he first came on the air, I don't know how much time did we have at night, maybe a 10-minute newscast or so.
Well, on the 10 o'clock, there was only 19 minutes for the whole program.
In fact, he even did sports one night. No?
Yes,
right?
That's right. Not long after I came here, Tom Schoendienst was doing sports, and Tom always went too long. And an edict came down from above that Tom would either get off on time or he would be cut. Now, the sports went just before the weather. And one night, he's doing baseball scores in the sports section, and Tom had 3 scores to go when he was cut because he'd run over again. And Spot came on the air, and Mr. Roberts said, "What's up?" And they said, "Well, I didn't get to give my last 3 scores. Hand them here." So when they came out on his weather report, he finished the sportscast for Tom.
There was an editorial in the Danville Commercial News this week that ended that it is for his presence that we will remember him. Mr. Roberts was a messenger we could love even when we hated the message. Even when he was predicting the storms to come that week, they still had their friend there, that presence.
So many people thought he and I were related, that one of us must have owned the station, or that he was my father-in-law, a rumor we've never been able to track down, and unfortunately that was not true. But when I heard last Saturday that he had died, I felt like I had lost a father, because he and I were so close. He had taught me to play golf. I own a set of irons he gave me. You know, he was a marvelous golfer. Always talked about playing golf with Babe Ruth.
Nearly a par golfer.
Par golfer, yeah. And he and I used to play golf some in the mornings until his health became poor. But he was a man of so many interests. He started the symphony. He was a man of great literature. He was well read. He attended cultural events. He traveled the world. He loved many things, and he was a man of science and a man of great warmth and compassion for people. I think you mentioned he was a lay minister in the Presbyterian Church, a visiting ministers group. Very few people as rounded as this man, and I think we've all lost a very close and dear friend for whom we shall always have a great deal of respect.
2 men who followed closely along with the 2 professional careers of Jack Roberts, sharing some reflections with us tonight.
Welcome back. Mr. Roberts was our friend. That's what made him special, our personal connection. No matter what was happening in the world, we could depend on him to be there every night, telling us that the sun would rise again and that good weather would return to Central Illinois. We return you now to Remembering Mr. Roberts from the vault.
From the halls of the Illinois General Assembly in Springfield, on the editorial pages of Central Illinois newspapers, from his many friends, this has been a week of tribute to Mr. Roberts. In a resolution offered this week by State Representative Timothy Johnson of Urbana and adopted by the Illinois House of Representatives, Mr. Roberts was cited for his many contributions, among them his service to the people of Central Illinois through his dedication to the highest principles of the American free press, bringing his own perceptive, thorough weather reports to WCIA viewers for over 31 years. As we said a week ago tonight, all across Central Illinois, people feel like they have lost a close friend or a member of the family. And those sentiments have been expressed in the many cards and letters and calls that we have received. Among them these, from Springfield. Little League games, picnics, starting out on vacation, every place we went as the children were growing up, we always checked to see what Mr. Roberts had to say about the next day. We will all miss him. From Gilman, I've watched Mr. Roberts with a great deal of respect for so many years that he almost seemed like a member of my own family. A Champaign viewer writes, he was a very dear man who was also a very important part of our family. We will miss him deeply. From Gibson City, his cheerful, gentle manner will be missed by so many. A Decatur family writes, we will truly miss his regular weather forecasts and especially his calming assurances when a storm is approaching. And indeed, we all will miss him. I want to extend our sincere appreciation to those of you who have called or written your expressions of sympathy. I also want to thank you for letting us share some of those sentiments with you tonight in remembering Mr. Roberts.